Welcome to Day Zero Update for June 16th, 2024. I'm your host, Chris Elogi.
I'm Brandon Perkins.
And I'm Janra Victorio.
And yeah, we are finally at the end of Summer Game Fest. Danreb has returned from his trip with plenty of games to talk about. As well as we got some highlights from the other showcases we have not talked about yet. The Future of Play Direct, the Wholesome Direct, the Latin American Games Showcase, and Women-Led Game Showcase, and the Ubisoft Forward. We're not going to talk about every single thing there. In fact, there were a number of games that were in multiple of those showcases. That's a little bit weird, but whatever. Then we'll have a good bit of other news because a bunch of other things were announced.
Yep.
Either potentially part of some other nebulous part of Summer Game Fest or just in the weeks since then.
Yeah.
They waited for everything else to happen before they talked about their stuff. But yeah, before we get to that, we'll talk about what we've been playing. And I'll kick it off here. I have been playing a neat little game on Game Pass on Xbox that is called Rolling Hills. I think the full title is Rolling Hills, Make Sushi, Make Friends. We are going to this, they call it a cursed town. I guess a town that never grows in sort of popularity or whatever. I never really got the impression there was anything like that from when I played, but you're sort of a robot who opens up a sushi restaurant or takes over a sushi restaurant, and you don't really make the sushi. It just appears out of this conveyor belt. So far, it just shows 5 different types of sushi, or maybe sometimes similar types of sushi, but as you got patrons in your restaurant, they'll show like an icon above their head of the type of sushi they want. You grab one off your conveyor belt to give to them. They also have a number that I think is the quality number, but I haven't really figured out too much about how to upgrade the quality. You can level up your sushi up to level 5, I think, but that doesn't necessarily affect the quality. But as you play, you get more recipes, so more random stuff can come out of the conveyor belts. Hopefully, you get stuff that fits the people that you have asking for sushi. But you do get some. I have like a snowman sushi that is usable for any type, so you don't necessarily have to keep respawning more sushi. But it's not like there's a huge time limit to that. It's maybe like 5 or 10 seconds you have to wait between uses, which isn't too big of a problem. You have to worry about people falling asleep. You have a horn on your little robot. You just go up to them, honk the horn. And what else? They get the tables dirty, so you have to go over and clean them on occasion. But you also, in sort of Animal Crossing style, there's a shop that sells furniture, which can be more tables you can put in your restaurant, or other items that will boost, say, the amount of XP or amount of money you get out of patrons, or make your conveyor belts spawn stuff a little faster, I guess. Or just make it affect other aspects of it. You can ask for any of the terms, like what that actually means, what kind of bonus you get out of it. But yeah, I got like a couple vending machines that boost money. I got a TV and a little Lucky Cat statue kind of thing. Some electric signs, neon signs that boost my sushi machine. So that's pretty nice. I've gotten to the second chunk of the game where you have, I assume every so often you make sushi for some deity or something. I made some cucumber sushi for a kappa, who then lifted a little bit of the curse, which meant that my restaurant could go from level 5 to level 10 for max. So that's kind of where I'm at, like 7 or 8 right now. But it's really nice, kind of one of those. You got a couple shops to go to, one for the stuff for your restaurant, to a shop that sells ingredients that can upgrade your recipes, to a cafe that lets you kind of go on a coffee dates with a number of people in the village to raise your friendships with them. Luckily, the achievements don't really require too much. Uh, it seems like maybe the most challenging thing is you have to unlock all the recipes, but I assume you just keep going. That'll happen. But it's like you gotta unlock 10 hats. There's an influencer that shows up who
Mm-hmm.
gives you like daily quests to do, and you get points out of that you can spend on uh, unlocking cosmetic stuff like hats or items for your shop or recipes from that. But you got story stuff that happens along the way, quests you do, some really small stuff. But you also need to go around the village because there are cans, like crushed pop cans that people leave around. You can pick those up and recycle them for some extra money, as
Mm-hmm.
well as like uh, a gift box around that has 100 gold in it. So that stuff will help you get more money to spend on stuff or just keep on hand for some of the big things that happen. As a as like unlocking some of that stuff costs like 500 gold, so it's worth kind of just hanging on to the money, not spending it all the time. But that's been a
Mm-hmm.
pretty solid chill game on an Xbox and PC. It's on Game Pass as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good solid game. Um, let's see. I've also been playing The Case of the Golden Idol. I got this
Mm-hmm.
a while back on Steam. Have been playing it a bit here in the last few days. This is I would say, puzzle adventure game of
Mm-hmm.
sorts, maybe in the vein of some of Lucas Pope's stuff, which I'm forgetting what to see here. But yeah, like you're not really a character. You're just observing these scenes
Mm-hmm.
that feature, usually somebody has been killed, and you're trying to figure out um, what's going on. So you're clicking on all the people, all the items. You can have their options to have them highlight all the stuff you can click on, or you can leave it off if you want to
Mm-hmm.
make that more challenging. But you're gonna look through that stuff, find notes that have names on them. It'll highlight stuff,
Mm-hmm.
names to click on, and that'll add to essentially your library of names and uh, items and nouns and verbs and such to
Mm-hmm.
use. Because once you tells you like how many you need to find amongst everything, and once you do that, you can flip to the investigation portion of the game, which will show you like a message that explains like what happened, who did it, why they did it, that kind of thing. And you
Mm-hmm.
have a bunch of blank spaces, and you're trying to fill in that stuff. Usually, you also have a screen of all the people in the scene, and you're trying to figure out who's who
Mm-hmm.
um, using the various notes and such that you find. You also get when you click on people, you get a little bit of dialogue from them.
Mm.
Um, and then there's usually a couple other things that probably of importance to have straightened out. Like one
Mm-hmm.
was somebody that was murdered by poison at a dinner, and so it's like, well, what is the who was sitting at where on the table, and so that kind of helps you
Mm-hmm.
parse out like um, what was poisoned, who was poisoned, who's the you know maybe person that was supposed to be poisoned, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff, as well as like layouts of this is like all set in the late 1700s, so like what servants were living in what quarters, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's all really well done. The art style is maybe the part that I like the least, but I don't hate it or anything. It's a very particular art style to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just kind of emphasizes that all these people are very kind of ugly people in
Mm-hmm.
their design. Um, but yeah, it has a lot of neat scenarios. I've completed, I think, 5 chapters. I think there's 10 in the main game, but I also have the DLC that'll add
Mm-hmm.
a handful more each. So looking forward to put some more time to this. But yeah, works really well on PC
Mm-hmm.
um, and also my Steam Deck. Though it's very mouse focused, so on Steam Deck you kind of either use the sticks to kind of move a cursor slowly, or you use the touchpads to
Mm-hmm.
move that a little more quickly. But then, like when you're filling out the the fill in blank stuff, you need to drag the names to the spots, and that can be a little tedious on that thing. I kind of wish they had just a better controller setup, so that maybe you just click something to hold it, and then click on the spot you want to drop it, that kind of thing. But they don't really do that here. But maybe we'll do that for the sequel, since they're bringing that to consoles as well as PC from the start. But that game's really well done, so worth checking out. I think it's only on Switch and PC. As far as consoles, I think Switch is the only version they put out there. But yeah, that's cool. And then I played a bunch of demos from the Steam Next Fest stuff, things that are in most of these showcases here. This one's Dungeon Crawler. This is a dungeon crawler game, roguelite, kind of technically like a deck builder, though you don't use cards or anything. But you are taking control of one of a handful of rabbits that have had their foot cut off, because I think the trailer suggests it's due to gambling debts, and then those are sold off as like lucky rabbit's foot things. So you're playing as the rabbits who have now like mechanical claws to replace their foot that has been taken. So the battle system kind of is a spin on, say, Slay the Spires kind of system, where you're seeing enemies and what their next attack is going to be, so you can prioritize, whether you want to go defensive and build up your shield, or go offensive and do as much damage as you can. But instead of like a card-based system, essentially it fills this pit with a bunch of swords and shields and whatever other stuff is added to your deck, and you essentially use like a claw machine to grab it. This doesn't have controller support on PC, at least in the demo. I assume it will at some point, because it doesn't seem like it's really all that dependent on any sort of mouse stuff. But you are basically moving it left or right to find where you want to drop it, and then dropping it to have it automatically pick up stuff. Usually you can grab at least a few things, but there's also fluff in there that can take up some spots. And then as you get later in, there are enemies that can throw filler in there to mess it up, or you can get items that fill it up with water, so that all your shields float to the top and your weapons are at the bottom. Kind of allow you to maybe better separate for whatever your intended goal is. But yeah, it still seems pretty early, because a lot of the art on the dungeons looks very placeholder, and a lot of the art for the claw machine stuff kind of looks a little early for it. I don't think it has any sort of date on it yet, but I'm assuming probably next year. But it's a pretty good demo. Let's see, I played Maximum Football. This is in open beta. That is Madden style, NFL style kind of football game, though it's unlicensed, so it just has a bunch of fake teams and all that. For this beta, they just let you play exhibition games, but it looks like there's going to be a bunch of options for multiplayer and franchise stuff, and a lot of customization stuff to that, but that's not available at the moment. But from I played the game, it seems all right so far. A lot of my issues just been some performance issues, some gameplay issues. It seems still very early for what it is. A lot of the mechanics just don't feel there yet. A lot of run plays kind of just ended where the defender tackled my running back without too many missed tackles or anything like that. Even trying to juke or spin or use the truck stick or anything like that, it kind of it feels very flat on the run game, where your chance of getting extra yard just kind of is a predetermined thing, kind of. But passing stuff, it feels all right at times. It's kind of really tough too. Like, it has the very basic, like, tap it to throw like a high pass, a lob pass, or hold it down, the pass button to throw like a bullet pass, and somewhere in the middle there for like a more natural normal pass kind of thing. But yeah, trying to get the timing there, it really felt great, and the defense kind of has a lot of supernatural abilities. It feels like at times to block stuff. Either I don't know if their ability to defend is better than your wide receivers' like ability to do stuff or what, but it really felt great. But my quarterback was pretty good as a runner, so I often ran for first downs a lot. Had over 100 yards in that game, just the quarterback. So yeah, this is supposed to be, I think, launching as a free to play game at some point, whenever it is. I assume probably like next year or something, but it feels all right now. But they're definitely not where they need to be if they're trying to, provide meaningful competition to Madden. So they're still got a lot of work to do. But there's that. I played some weirder stuff like pinball or not pinball, building relationships. This got shown at one of these showcases where it is basically kind of a a free form kind of adventure platformer kind of game. There's been some of these that have been released a good bit lately, and this one kind of features you as a building that kind of gets not about tricked, but your buddy kind of recommends you go to this place, and you find out that's kind of like almost like a resort kind of thing that's going on, but it's also very queer. So there's a lot of interesting dialogue to it in a way that I was not expecting. Stuff that kind of implies that all of these buildings, if you could give them a an orientation, they'd all be very gay. Especially get some dialogue of characters being like, "Oh, are you a rooftop or a bottom floor?" That kind of jokes. And you run into like a couple that's where one partner is very into bouldering and the other partner is not, but they're dragged along to support the other person who very much wants to force this to be their thing together. That kind of thing. So yeah, it's got a lot of that kind of weird little humor, and you're trying to get a hookup with say they call bachelor pads. Though they add an X on the end of bachelor that I assume is a reference to like Latinx. That kind of term. I don't know 100% just yet, but from what I played, it seems pretty solid. It's a very early demo because there was a lot of buggy stuff to it that was a bit frustrating. Like walking up to, or thing is your building rolls around in a very fun and weird way, but like you go up to people or other buildings to talk to them, hit the button and it doesn't activate conversation. You kind of have to keep hitting it or maybe readjust where your building is at to try it again, kind of thing. A lot of very weird things with that. You do get some upgrades to your like platforming ability to get around by finding these chests that give you like a random stat bonus, which is just to like your jump ability, your jump height, and I think your dash. And some of the ways you can get around, you can kind of just Skyrim your way up sides of cliffs or whatever. These steep things to kind of just jump your way up there, and then you can like jump off of ledges and like dash across to get across good distances, all that kind of stuff. There's fishing, to which your fishing is kind of similar to like a Stardew Valley kind of fishing mini game where you're trying to fill up this bar as the little fish icon is on it, but instead of it being like a thing where you have to kind of hit the button to try and keep it in the same spot. You just move it. You don't have to try and physically like mash a button to keep it in the same spot. So it makes it a lot easier. And the fish are all cars, and so they have kind of fishy names for the cars. I forget any examples of that, but yeah, it's a neat little game. Very weird, very queer, very unusual kind of game. But looking forward to the full thing. But I think it's going to be a while, maybe another year or so before we see any sort of release date. But it's a pretty cool little game. Just the demo, very rough. So that seemed to be a common thing. Is a lot of demos like very early states of these games, especially when they have options like send us feedback, things like that. It's like, oh, okay. So there's that, and then Pinball Spires. The last time I checked out, this is what they call a pinball vania. Very much kind of giving you a Metroid or Castlevania kind of pinball game. Maybe in the vein of some of the kind of alien kind of pinball games that were on like the Amiga or whatever, that kind of stuff. But you have these kind of interconnected little tables, screens that you need to move. Hit your ball around, trying to get through the exits to go to the next screen, and you have some opportunities for falling back, falling down to the screen below you, that kind of stuff. Pretty simple stuff. They have enemies on the screen that respawn every so often. That's kind of a little bit annoying, but they're generally for a reason there to unlock stuff. And you get some abilities along the way. You get XP for every enemy and every block you hit. So as you level up, you get more abilities. And some of the stuff I saw was like the ability to slow down the action. So as you have the ball like rolling down your flipper, you can get like an arrow that shows you which way it's going to go, which can be useful for some of the specific hits you need to make, that kind of stuff. And then you get an ability to put your ball on fire, which lets you take out enemies pretty quickly. Also, it's used for one particular room where you need to light up these candles because it's a pitch black room, so you can only see kind of what's around your ball when it's on fire, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's a pretty short demo. So I got a video for that up on the YouTube. So yeah, definitely worth checking out some of those demos. I'll probably record some more videos here over the next week of some more stuff. But yeah, that's been pretty much it for me. So Brandon, what have you been doing?
Well, as for me, I'm basically still playing the same two things I was playing last week. I'm still playing the Apollo Justice trilogy. I'm now pretty far into the second game in that collection. Specifically, I'm at the one with the astronaut and the rocket and everything, and the botched launch and everything. I've gotten used to like the 3D graphics. As I said before, the reason that this was the first game in the series to use 3D graphics because it was the first game to be put on the 3DS. But the thing is, they still try to like mimic the older graphics with a lot of the character models, and it doesn't work a lot of times. It's just kind of off. But I've gotten used to it. And it's still a lot of fun. I'm genuinely enjoying these games, and I'm pretty sure there's like a DLC case that is also like after the one I'm at. So technically, I've still got one more to go before I'm done with this second game and move on to the third. Yeah. On top of that, I am playing Amnesia: The Bunker. This is the latest of the Amnesia games. Came out, I think, either last year or the year before. And basically, like all the Amnesia games, it's basically you waking up in a place that you don't know with no memory of what's happened, and you're being stalked by some huge monster. But there's a couple of differences this time. First and foremost, is the fact that, the modern setting. You're in World War I. You're a French soldier who's in a bunker. Trench, again during some sort of battle against the Germans. I'm not sure where in France. It might be the Verdun. It might be someplace like that. But you wake up in the middle of this bunker where you find out it's almost completely abandoned. The only thing left is corpses, basically. And you're being stalked by this really freaky looking monster that looks like a melting human gorilla. And essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to keep the lights on first and foremost, because everything is powered by a generator and you need to make sure you've got fuel nearby to keep the generator going. And it requires a bit of like power rationing, because you can definitely like turn on like a bunch of lights and stuff in the game, but the more lights you turn on, the more fuel that ends up burning up in a short period of time. So you have to think about like, okay, am I going to keep this light on or not? Because if the generator burns out, then the lights go off, and that makes the monster even more aggressive. And also, unlike past Amnesia games, the area is like open, and the monster has like the complete free reign of the entire area. So unlike in like the previous games where it was kind of semi-scripted and they were contained in like a particular place, here that is not the case. They will come, and the monster can show up anywhere, and he's not even the only thing you have to worry about, because there's also these carnivorous rats that'll show up. Now the difference this time is, because you're a soldier, you have a weapon. In this case, you have a standard issue 6-shot revolver. Now, there aren't a lot of bullets to go around. In fact, I think last count, someone said that if you go through the entire area, you'll only be able to find like about 20 bullets. So you have to like make your shots count, and you have to, conserve ammo. And on top of that, you also have a dynamo flashlight, which is a flashlight that, it charges itself using an electric dynamo. So you have to basically crank it like, you're cranking a lawnmower or something. And it doesn't stay forever. It only keeps working as long as that dynamo keeps spinning. And the thing is, every time you try to turn this thing on, it will actually make a lot of noise. So, the monster is very sensitive to sound, and it can hear you. So you have to be careful about what you're doing and where you're going. But yeah, I haven't really gotten that far into that game because it is, as you can imagine, fairly difficult. But it's quite enjoyable. I'm liking it. But yeah, that's basically what I've been playing. What about you, Dan Rub?
Yeah, I just got back from Summer Game Fest, so I have a lot to talk about. But yeah, I'll just talk about what I was playing prior to that. I finished Hogwarts Legacy, so that was one of my goals before leaving. And yeah, the ending was a little anticlimactic. Like I would say the story as a whole isn't very strong. It's really all about just like being a Hogwarts student, while like understanding that while you're not the chosen one, you do have like some pretty cool abilities. And the last boss fight was pretty cool. You had to use like different kinds of magic to, to disable some of these shields that he had, and then all of a sudden just go ahead and attack as dealt there. And then the cool thing is, like, after you beat that final boss, you have like complete range of what you want to do at Hogwarts after. So if you want to chase the platinum and do things that way, that's fine. But if you do want to do that, be aware that you have to like play the first 2 hours as a member of other houses as well, because there are some trophies that are locked to being a Hufflepuff or being a Gryffindor or being a Slytherin. I'm a Ravenclaw, so yeah, that's just me. But yeah, Hogwarts Legacy was definitely enjoyable, and I'm glad I finally found some time to finish it. The other thing that I wanted to work on before I left was playing the Legend of Heroes Trails to Daybreak demo. I don't know if you got a chance to play that yet, Brandon.
I have not had the chance to play it yet.
Gotcha. Well, the good news is that you get to carry over your progress over to the final game when that comes out. So that's cool. Great. It's not a waste of time. If you're playing on PlayStation, you get the prologue as well as the first chapter. And as you know, the chapters in this game are very, very long. So it's very fulfilling in that regard. If you're playing on Switch, you get the epilogue, which is about 4 hours. So yeah, I spent about like 11 to 12 hours with this game, just because like I just wanted to play it the way I normally would play the game. And Brandon and I have talked about it in various ways, just because like we know a lot about the game. But yeah, it takes place in Calvard, and it was a little bit of a surprise for me because like after playing the Sky series, I always thought of Calvard as like some sort of Eastern feudal kind of place. But the first city you're in is very European in nature, and the technology you see is actually better than Crossbows. I was under the impression that Crossbow was like the leading place for technology, but it just might be Calvert. So yeah, the main character you use is pretty cool. He's a rugged guy named Van Arkride. He's pretty blunt. He cusses immediately, so he's pretty cool in that regard. And another interesting thing is they have a new battle system. So it's a combination of action based and turn based stuff. It's actually like sort of two separate systems. So basically, when you approach an enemy, you have the option of like just fighting it from there using action-based controls. So you just go ahead and tap square to use melee strikes. You can switch your character to use different kinds of abilities. So the girl you're with can use magic and things like that. And then when you weaken it, if you want, you can just open up. They call it opening shards, and all of a sudden it goes into turn-based combat, which is familiar to a lot of the other Trails games. But for some reason, it just feels a little slower in that regard. So finding the balance between using the action-based battle system or using the turn-based battle system is probably going to be like what hooks me and what goes in there, because it actually does a good job of trying to explain it at first, but eventually when it leads you out to the wolves and there's some actual wolves to deal with, it becomes a little archaic and chaotic, because with the Trails games, especially when you're experiencing the world map, you see like maybe 4 to 5 enemies on the map at one time. Nowadays you're going to see like 10, 15, 20 even, and it's really overwhelming. So you really have to understand how to balance those two aspects. And I found myself towards the end of the demo just running through the dungeon I was in without really focusing too much on combat or leveling up, and just getting to the boss of the first chapter. And it started with a almost 10-on-3 assault, and I got wrecked from there. So I had to like use my S class pretty early, which I think they pretty much wanted me to do. But yeah, so like I said, the demo covers like the prologue and the first chapter. It takes a long time, 13 hours, but everything transfers from there. And then when the demo ends, it showed me a little bit more of a feudal territory. So I'm guessing I'm not entirely wrong about the overall setting, but I'm definitely excited for when this game comes out less than 3 weeks from now. So yeah, looking forward to that. And yeah, moving on to Summer Game Fest. This was SmashPad's like first time that we've been invited to anything this big since E3 2008. So it was a pleasure to go ahead and check this out. For listeners who aren't really familiar with how Summer Game Fest works, yeah, we have the Summer Game Fest showcase presentation that happened on that was Friday, right? That happened on Friday. Yeah. And then you have Summer Game Fest Play Days, which takes place a day after all weekend, and that pretty much invites the press to a place in LA where they can preview a whole bunch of the stuff there. So a lot of the previews I wrote around 11 on SmashPad right now, to have like a few more to write. A lot of these were via appointment that I made maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago. So I've known about a lot of the stuff that's already been shown for a bit. Granted, nothing was really a surprise. And then the embargoed stuff, they actually told us, oh yeah, this is embargoed game, and you won't know what the game is until Summer Game Fest. So we pretty much agreed to writing a preview, or not writing a preview. We agreed to making appointments to games that we didn't even know where they were from. So one example was Amazon, which I'll talk about later. But yeah, after the Summer Game Fest showcase, we went over to the Guerrilla Collective event, and I was able to play a few games from there. One was Robots at Midnight. This one was shown at a previous Guerrilla Collective game, or Guerrilla Collective event at GDC. And this is basically a roguelite that had graphics very similar to that of Kena Bridge of Spirits. That was the game that I really compare it to. And what I liked about it was that everything was a whole lot more accessible than you'd see from a regular Souls-like. But a lot of the popular strategies were there, like go ahead and poke at an enemy, roll away, things like that. And then I was actually able to beat the first boss, which I was pretty proud of. and then all of a sudden, like, you find out why it's called Robots at Midnight. So at the daytime, it's all whimsical, and then all of a sudden at nighttime, it's dark, obviously, and then everything there is a whole lot more aggressive. You know, you spend a whole lot of time running through the plains and just avoiding monsters. But then at midnight, they're just faster. Like if you're trying to sprint away, they'll actually sprint at you, and like just trying to survive during that time is a pretty interesting experience. That's when I died, and that was pretty interesting. Moving on, I played Just Crow Things. This game is coming out, I think, within the next month or two. And this is basically one of those games very similar to that of Untitled Goose Game or Little Kitty Big City, where you use a crow, and the crow just does a whole bunch of checklist things in every level. You meet different animals and do sort of like Animal Crossing like quests for them. It's a checklist game, but the main thing here is that you can also fly. So, you know, flying around a map is pretty cool, and you also can poop on everything. And it's funny because at the top left, you see the amount of poops you have, and it's just cool seeing every you want to react to all the poop leaving on the map. So that's pretty cool. The next game I played was Juice. It's a black and white first-person shooter-esque kind of game where you use I think you use a monster or a kaiju, and then basically you just run around the map and clear everything. It's pretty simple. It's a dungeon crawler where it's just first-person, kill everything. It was interesting to play. I was playing with a keyboard and mouse, and that's not my usual method of control, so I was struggling in that regard. The next game I played was Reckless. Reckless is done by Free Range Games, and basically this game is sort of a Skate clone, you know, except the difference is it's more cartoony, and they really want to employ the fun of, you know, just having skate culture as well as building various skate parks and all the customizables and what you want to be. Just to be upfront, this is a company that I interviewed with a couple of weeks ago for a job. It didn't work out, so yeah, the conflict of interest is gone. So I went ahead and talked about it as well. But yeah, as far as the comparisons to Skate, it has similar controls there. I've always been more of a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater guy, so I played the game for about half an hour, struggled my way through just because I couldn't really comprehend the controls since everything was tied to the right stick. But, you know, eventually once I got the hang of it, it got pretty fun. And, you know, the message of everything being customizable is totally going to be there. And I look forward to seeing the way this game shapes up over the next few months. The next is We Never Yield. This is done by Aerial Knights. And this one is sort of a endless runner. You use two different characters. If you want, you can play in multiplayer, but I found it a whole lot more interesting in single player mode. And basically, you know, with an endless runner, you want to make certain jumps or avoid certain obstacles. And you do that in this game by using the various buttons. So, for example, when you're using, you see, you're in control of a character on the left and a character on the right. So the character on the right is going to be matched by the right side of your controller. So, you know, the X, A, B, Y buttons. And then the character on the left is going to be mapped to the D-pad. So, for example, if you wanted to jump, the left character has to use the up button, whereas the right character has to use Y or X or whatever you're playing on, you know, Xbox, whatever it may be. And yeah, so it's just a matter of like understanding those controls. And, you know, if you make a mistake, that's where you die. And it was pretty addictive in that regard. And I look forward to playing this when it comes out in a few months as well. Anyway, so that was the Guerrilla Collective. Next was Summer Game Fest Play Days. I got there on Sunday. And yeah, had a whole bunch of appointments. My fun was with the game Battle Aces. If you guys remember from the SGF presentation, this is the one that looked like sort of an anime cartoon thing, and it ended up being a strategy game in the likes of StarCraft. So that's not really my type of game. Not to mention when I do play those games, I prefer to play on a gamepad. And I was playing with a keyboard and mouse, and it was a little complicated for me just because I couldn't understand the hotkeys. But the cool thing with this game is that you don't really have to, you know, drag the map back and forth to make sure that you have all the units there. You can go ahead and just, you know, press the various keys that you have, and then you can have them summoned right when you need them, and you know you can just go ahead and multitask that way. I played a few rounds, and I definitely had my fun. But you know, this is not a game that I plan on like playing in the future just because it's not a me thing. And then next up is Sega. So Sega was the one that I was most excited for. I played 3 games there. I played Sonic X Shadow Generations. This game is basically just Sonic Generations with Shadow thrown in. And the way they divided it was by the start screen is, you can play Sonic Generations, or on the right side you can play Shadow Generations. And then Sega told me I should start with Shadow because Sonic Generations is like there's nothing new there. But I started with Sonic just to like warm up. And yeah, I played through both the remixed and classic versions of Green Hill Zone. It's about as fun as it was 10 years ago. So yeah, I got my warm up there, and then I played Shadow Generations, and obviously, Shadow debuted in Sonic Adventure 2, so there aren't really a whole lot of like 2D examples to go off of there. So both of the levels that I played, one was a boss level, and one was a recreation of one of his levels from Adventure 2. And the cool thing about the Shadow levels is that you have access to the Chaos Control. So that was actually pretty hard because when you use Chaos Control, you're freezing enemies in their place, and you're able to use them as a platform instead of an enemy. And you have to time it in such a way where where the camera or your angles don't get too chaotic. I actually struggled with this, and when you fall off the stage and don't die, you have to use a lift to get back to the main part of the stage. And then I just kept making the same mistake over and over. And the thing with this, with Sonic Generations, is that it actually rates your performance based on the sections of the level you did. And when I played the Sonic games, I was S tiering everything. And then when I was playing Shadow, I was like, oh, okay, I got a D on this because I was too slow. But it is what it is. At the boss fight was pretty cool. You end up using the various aiming jump that you have, and just being able to avoid things and shoot things was pretty cool. So yeah, if you've played Sonic Generations, there really isn't much of a reason to buy this at full price. But the key thing here is going to be Shadow. So I don't know how many Shadow levels they'll actually have, or if Shadow Generations is going to be its own game there. But I think the pull to making this a $60 game is giving you like the full value with Shadow. And Sonic Generations, if you didn't play it 10 years ago, it was a fantastic game. This was like the best Sonic game prior to Sonic Mania coming out. So yeah, we'll talk more about that as we get closer. The next game I played was Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. This is actually the first mainline Super Monkey Ball game in over 12 years. The last one came out on the Vita, and the last few that came out on the Switch were actually remixed. So yeah, this is actually the first new one in a while. It's being directed by the RGG Studio, the guys who brought us Yakuza. So yeah, when it comes to minigames, they know what they're doing. But the key things here are going to be the adventure mode, because the adventure mode has like cutscenes that give it a story again. And then obviously the rumble mode, because they really want to emphasize the combat and the mini games here. Like there's a racing mode. They have a mode where you want to go through certain hoops and score a certain amount of points. And yeah, it was all really fun. This is going to be a Switch exclusive coming out, I believe, next week. So that one looks pretty cool. Next up is Metaphor ReFantazio. This is probably my most anticipated game of the year. And yeah, this is Persona through and through. We had access to 3 different modes for the demo. One was adventure, and we pretty much just go through some of the narrative. There obviously isn't much for me to say, just because we're dealing with probably a 100-hour game here, and when you play a demo, there really isn't much to talk about. But the main thing that was a highlight for me was, with the Persona games, you play a character who doesn't really talk. When you talk, it's a yes or no. Metaphor ReFantazio gives you dialogue options, and when you pick them, he actually says them. So if you're going to make your character an asshole, he's going to sound like an asshole. But if you're going to make your character a nice guy, he'll definitely say those things. So it was pretty cool to see that, and seeing the way that the other characters react to him. The other mode was a dungeon mode, and that was a little interesting. It's actually similar to Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak, because you actually have the option of doing a lot of action-based things before going into combat here as well. In the previous Persona games, all you have to do is strike an enemy from behind, and all of a sudden you have the advantage. Whereas with this one, you do have to do some work to sort of fell an enemy before you have that advantage in battle. So that was pretty cool seeing as well. But as for the way the actual battle system, turn-based battle system works, it's Persona, except replace the word Persona with archetype, and you have the Metaphor ReFantazio system. So not much to say there. In this demo version, there wasn't a whole lot of magic that I could use, so I ended up just being reliant on items. So that was interesting to point out. And then the last part of the demo was a boss. And before the boss, you actually are treated to what's sort of the hub in the game. Everything, or I want to assume everything, takes place in sort of an airship or sea ship or sand ship that you're in, because everything that you do is going to be in that ship, and you can do things like scrub the deck. And when you scrub the deck, time passes, and you have some part of your stats upgraded. A lot like how in Persona, it's like, oh, you hang out with some kid at the beginning of the day, all of a sudden it's nighttime. So the exact same thing happens in Metaphor. One of the funniest things I did was I went to the bathroom, I used a toilet, and then some funny dialogue showed up, and then all of a sudden some stats were raised. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then before the boss fight, I did the same thing, and then the main character is like, yeah, I'm not gonna die in a toilet. So it was pretty cool seeing that kind of stuff. And yeah, so Metaphor Fantasio is looking to be a fantasy persona, and I am all about it. Next up here is Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. If you're somebody that was into the Budokai Tenkaichi games back in the day, this one is for you. It is exactly the same as that, except that you have the ability to go into sparking mode by charging past your charging limit, and by doing that, you unlock all of your ultimates that you can use in battle. And that's really all it is there. These games aren't known for being too competitive, just because they're just there for fan service and stuff. But it's still fun, competing with people. At the end of the day, there was an interview done with some of the developers at Bandai Namco saying that yeah, they don't really care much for character balance. So if you're somebody using Super Saiyan Vegeta and you lose to Yamcha, you probably deserve to not have the game. So yeah, good luck there. But yeah, the cool thing about this game though is the adventure mode goes through various points of the Dragon Ball series, but you also don't have to follow the canon through and through. The example they showed in one of the demos played in front of us was at the very beginning, obviously in Dragon Ball Z, Goku has to deal with Raditz, and Raditz kidnaps Gohan and says, yeah, come back when you're ready or whatever, or else Gohan dies. So eventually I come back with Piccolo, and or no, you have the option of coming back with Piccolo or going it alone. And in canon, you actually go back with Piccolo, and stuff happens from there. In the game, you don't have to do that, and there are various ways to see everything unfold. Unfortunately, of course, the developers didn't go outside the lines there, so I don't know what's going to happen. And that was cool because now that makes me want to get the game. You also have these custom battles where you can choose which characters you want to go against for any situation. You can choose the arena. You can even choose their dialogue. So you can set up all sorts of dream matches. If you wanted to see Mr. Satan fight, Frieza, by all means. And yeah, it's interesting seeing those dialogue situations play out, because I actually did a few where I had Trunks fight Raditz, which can't happen because they were both alive at separate times. And yeah, hilarity ensues. And part of what's fun is you can go ahead and upload those to YouTube or whatever, and have people or the servers, and have people play them or have people react to them. And yeah, it's definitely going to be a fun thing for the community, and I look forward to that. Moving over to more interesting things, we went to Capcom as well. Capcom had Street Fighter 6 with Bison. I played a little bit of that. It was fun. Don't have much to say because it's just Street Fighter 6. It's Bison. It's it's obviously he's dead in canon, and it was interesting seeing how they brought him in. But obviously the main thing was to see how he felt. And yeah, he's faster than what I thought he'd be, and it was pretty fun to play. And Street Fighter 6 was great. It's going to remain great. So there's that. The big thing there, or the unique thing there, was this game, Kunitsugami, Path of the Goddess. We've seen this in previous State of Plays as well as the Summer Game Fest showcase. And what's interesting is that whenever we see the game, it looks cool, but we don't know what it is. I actually played it, and now I sort of know what it is. It's a tower defense game. So basically, the object of the game is to get the princess or the goddess to go from the beginning of the stage to the end. And the main way to do that is by setting the stage up and recruiting people to your party and defending the princess once night falls. Because once night falls, we have demons coming out of the portals and things like that, and it becomes crazy from there. It can also be compared to Pikmin, just because of the way you want to put your units. You want to have people who are defending her, you want to have people who are attacking, you want to have people who are archers. You just want to have the right situation for each thing. And I played this game for almost an hour, and I couldn't get enough. So yeah, this game's actually coming pretty soon. It's coming next month. Look forward to this coming. And then the crown jewel of Capcom was Monster Hunter Wilds. I'm somebody that thinks we shouldn't be talking about this game all that much because the game comes out next year. But Monster Hunter Wilds is looking like one of the best games I've ever seen. I'm not a very good Monster Hunter player. I'll say that up front. Whenever I play the game and all of a sudden I start sucking, I see someone Japanese jump into my server, I get excited because I know I'm going to beat the level. But yeah, watching people who are actually good, aka the developers, play Monster Hunter is totally cool. So I'm sure you've all seen the trailers. Like they're all in the desert and whatnot. And like the cool thing about this game is, especially if you've played a Monster Hunter before, is that there are no load times as you go from zone to zone, and it's just interesting seeing that happen. But what really makes this game unique is the way time passes and weather changes. So we watched the developers do a hunt where they had to like hunt for one of the new monsters. He sort of looks like a woolly mammoth, and he's in the middle of a crowd that's there, and we have to attack the leader. And then all of a sudden, instead of just attacking them there and dying, we lead him out. We lead him out into a more open plain, and as that monster follows us, we aside from setting our own traps, we make him run on water to make him slip. We make him run on thorns to hurt his feet as he's running. All of a sudden, like other monsters want to attack him. We eventually run into the apex predator of that map, and we see the fight between that much bigger monster and this monster we thought was big before, and things like that. And like we're using our hook shot to grapple up onto the tree and then jump onto the monster's back and stab him from there. Like all the things you can do in this game are really interesting. And another new thing is the ability to set up camp basically anywhere. In previous games, camps were usually at the beginning of the map or at certain parts of every zone. Now you can put them everywhere, and monsters can destroy your camp. So having all of that in play is really interesting. And yeah, once this game comes out next year, it's going to be totally insane. Anyway, I got to wrap this up soon. Another game I played was Parcel Core. This game is being published by Tencent, and it's basically Jet Set Radio Future, except it takes place on a bike. And like the cool thing about this game is, yeah, it's a checklist open world game, but since you're on a bike, you want to make sure that you're getting everywhere as fast as possible, and you do that by grinding walls, grinding rails. You want to find the shortest way to get from point A to point B, and it's really cool doing that. But I also found like some trouble using that bike because it was just hard to grasp the controls and the way it felt. And then there's also Death Spring 66. It's a racing game with robots, except you run instead of drive things. And it was just cool being able to like kill robots like Road Rash style, all while grinding rails and using different power-ups from there. This game is going to be Steam for now. I don't know if it's coming out on console. And then there's Phantom Blade Zero. This was the game that ended the Summer Game Fest presentation. It's being developed by S-Team, and what I like about this game is like it looks like a Souls-like, but it's not. It's really closer to the Ninja Gaiden games that came out on the original Xbox back then. You want to be able to play with your combos. You want to be able to switch your weapons to unleash more damage. And it was funny playing with the developers and like just sucking. Like I felt really good about the way I was playing. Everything felt really visceral. And all of a sudden I went against the first boss and I died like 10 times. But the cool thing is like when you respawn back to where the boss was, and you don't have to worry about other enemies around the area respawning, because if they're dead, they're dead. And that was cool. And like the part that I really liked was when I got to the demo's final boss, which I actually beat. I beat him on my second try, and my first try doesn't really count because he had me with this one hitter that I should have been prepared for, but I wasn't. But yeah, the fact that I was able to get my retribution after dying so many times and finally coming off well was pretty cool. And the best part about it was after I finished the demo, I met Shuhei Yoshida right after because he was playing at a station right across from me. So that was a cool experience. But yeah, Summer Game Fest was definitely a fun experience. I look forward to going back again sometime next year. And yeah, keep an eye out for SmashPad.com. Almost everything I talked about is in preview written form. And I just have a few more games left that I can't talk about yet because they're not the embargo hasn't lifted yet. But yeah, definitely check it out. I wrote 11 previews and I'm not done yet. So yeah, that's that.
All right. Yeah, so a lot of stuff to look forward to.
Yep.
But yeah, we got some news here. PlayStation Plus's game catalog lineup has been announced for June for extra and premium members. For the extra and premium. Let's see, PS5, PS4, Monster Hunter Rise. So while you're waiting for Wilds, you can check out the most recent Monster Hunter game. One that kind of makes some further improvements over some of the stuff they did with World. So I played a little bit of this recently, so that's a cool game. So that's worth checking out. Let's see, for PS5, there's Football Manager 2024. It's the most recent one of those where you're managing a team, but from a sort of manager mode versus actually playing it. So that's a game you can check out. Also for PS5, Crusader Kings 3. If you want a nerd-ass nerd game, that's the one for you.
Yep.
That's a big strategy RPG. Yeah. You're playing as the leader of a medieval noble family. You're kind of managing your kingdom and your power and all that through generations. That kind of stuff. So that's one you can check out. For PS5 and PS4, there's Monster Energy Supercross, the official video game 6. Some motocross stuff here, so you can check that one out. For PS5, there's After Us. This is a game I've been interested in checking out at some point, so this is nice. It's sort of a post-human version of Earth. You're playing like a spirit that is a guy of the spirit of life, doing some platforming and salvaging the souls of extinct animals, some stuff like that. So, as well as doing some fighting, I guess. So, that's cool. Also for PS5, Anno 1800. This is the city builder series that Ubisoft has that probably big in Europe, but not one that people talk about over here very much.
Yeah.
City builder RTS kind of game. And the weird thing about that series is the years they pick, all the numbers have to add up to 9 if you add them up. So that's how they pick their years. So the new one that they announced during the Ubisoft Forward was 117. So it's set during the ancient Rome times. So there's that. Let's see, for PS4 and PS5, Police Simulator Patrol Officers. This is one of those sim games. There's a bunch of these that are about being cops.
Yep.
I guess for the very shitty people.
Oh yeah.
But I've been sort of morbidly fascinated by this like genre of simulator. So now I don't have to actually pay for one of these. Most of them look like shit, but
yeah,
maybe one of these is actually all right. Maybe I can somehow undermine the cops. I'll be one, but I assume not. Let's see, for PS4, there's Far Cry 4. So you've not checked that one out, so you can check that out. Let's see, also for PS4, Lego The Hobbit. That covers the Hobbit trilogy, I guess, of movies. So there's that. Also for PS4 is Lego The Incredibles. So you can play one of those based on The Incredibles 1 and 2. So but yeah, for premium, with the classics and PSVR 2 stuff, they added a new PSVR game, Kayak VR Mirage. This is a very cool little game. Kind of based on, as you can guess, you pilot a kayak, but you do it through a number of really cool looking environments. Like one set around, I don't know if it's a glacier or what, but big snowy environment. There's a big jungle environment.
Yep.
Like based on some real areas, but I don't know how accurate they are to those areas. But you are doing like the kayaking in a pretty interesting way. So that's a fun like chill one of those games. The rest here are classics. For PS5 and PS4, there's a Lego Star Wars 2, the original trilogy. This is the PSP version. So that'll be interesting to see. I think this is before the Legos started talking. So in case you're ascribing to the Legos shouldn't talk part of the fandom, so there you go. Also for PS5 and PS4, Ghost Hunter This is a PS2 game, I believe, from the same team that did. Let me see here real quick. They did. Let's see, Primal, which I believe was part of the PS2 collection on PS4. That's a pretty decent little action adventure game with some horror elements to it. This one leans more into the horror stuff. As let's see, late night disturbance call leads Officer Lazarus Jones of the Detroit PD to an abandoned school. Site of a gruesome murder spree some 10 years past. Should have been a routine run, descends into a disaster of supernatural proportions when hordes of tortured souls are accidentally unleashed. So there's that you can check out. The image here almost looks like one of the horde in Gears of War, but there you go. And then for PS5, PS4, an actual PSP classic, Daxter. The first of the Jak and Daxter games that they put on the PSP. This one you just play as Daxter. Kind of get to go around a big city, not necessarily open worldish, but it feels like that for a PSP game. This is a really good platformer and all that. So yeah, that's one that's really worth checking out.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, there's your lineups and some pretty solid stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never played Daxter, so I'm looking forward to trying that one out.
Same.
Monster Hunter Rise, I forgot that game came out on PS4 5. So.
Yeah, that was like January last year, so most people forgot about it. But yeah, let's see here for our next one. Yeah, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 getting an update that adds some new suits, as well as some, I think, doing some more bug fixes and such. But this will be out June 18th. Let's see. Yeah, they have some. I think some of these are community designed stuff, as well as some returning from the first game. So yeah, there's a Metro suit for Miles Morales, Ginja suit for Miles Morales. Let's see, Fluoro suit for Peter Parker, Motor Chic suit for Peter Parker, Last Stand suit for Peter Parker. There's an Into the Spider-Verse suit for this is Peter B. Parker's suit. From that, the animated suit for Miles Morales is returning. So that's cool. The Uptown Pride suit. So there's that. Some neat stuff to further check out. So there you go. Then let's see. Yeah, this also got announced. New Dredge DLC is coming August 15th, called the Iron Rig. This is pretty cool looking. Let's see what it's going to be $11.99. Seems like it's going to be a bit of a bigger area for that. So looking forward to this. Yeah, because it's centered around a big drilling rig. But as is tradition with Dredge, some supernatural stuff happens and kind of messes with it. So that's, yeah, dark liquid begins to seep into familiar and once safe areas of the game. So this is going to be all around the map. So that's interesting. So yeah, that'll be fun. They are going to have a big physical collector's edition of this game for PS5 and Switch for $100. The base game, all DLC, exclusive artwork and reversible inlay, 10-centimeter replica of the Sign of Ruin talisman, double-sided poster, map, a complete compendium of all fish and their aberrant variants, message in a bottle from Black Salt Games, and a metal doubloon coin, all housed in a layered box featuring exclusive artwork. So that's cool. Looking forward to that. It's for more reasons to keep playing Dredge. And then we got a date for one of the other games that Square Enix had announced, Visions of Mana. This will be out August 29th for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Let's see. It's the first new mainline game in 15 years. Let me see. I think this is the one they put out a demo for a while back. It'll be a $60 game at launch with a collector's edition for $200. That includes, a Ramco plush, an Art of Mana special issue, Visions of Mana soundtrack, collector's edition special box, and the physical game. So, a bunch of stuff in there. So, yeah, that's something you can check out later this summer.
Yeah, Visions of Mana looks awesome. Definitely looking forward to that one. That's something that I saw it for the first time. Tough part is that it's competing with Star Wars, but otherwise, looking forward to it still.
Yeah. But yeah, let's see here. Demon School got an update. They are finally going to be launching September 13th on PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and PC. This is the kind of Persona, like original Persona-esque kind of school life strategy RPG. Which means that the battle system's kind of more grid-based, that kind of thing, versus the turn-based RPG kind of thing that 3 Onward did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played Demon School at PAX last year, and that battle system is dense. So it took me. I couldn't even beat the tutorial. So I'm wondering how they ended up fixing things up to make it more approachable. Maybe they didn't, to keep it hard. But yeah, I'm sure this is on a lot of people's list, especially with some of the content.
Yeah, it's looking pretty neat. So that'll be fun. Then see, the next one up here, Lollipop Chainsaw Repop, finally has a date, September 25th, on PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and PC. And yeah, they showed off a bit more in their new trailer for this. The original game was a collaboration between Suda51 and James Gunn.
Yep.
Before James Gunn got big. Yeah, so now they are. They've remade a good bit of this game. I believe they have all the original music. Again, if they're saying they may not have it, but they've added a number.
Yeah, I was thinking, man, that must have been just a bit difficult, considering just the enormous amount of music they had to license for that game.
Yeah. So there's that. It'll have 4K 60 FPS support on the new consoles and PC. PS4, Xbox One, Switch, or 1080p 30 FPS. This will have shorter load times, better camera, increased attack speed, faster movement, as well as the Chainsaw Blaster now has auto rock on in auto fire mode, and increased max ammunition count. So while combos are now useful from the start of the game. Nick Roulette has received some changes, mini games, plus new auto QTE features on by default now, so you don't necessarily have to worry about that stuff if you don't want to.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of the improvements were quality of life based, but I've never played the game. I'm interested in trying it out, but watching this trailer did not sell me at all. It does not look good, to say the least. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I played the original back in the day. It's okay.
Yeah, it's like a cult hit kind of game.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's that. And yeah, for some more showcase news, Yacht Club Games had their direct where they announced a handful of things. Yeah, some new content for Shovel Knight Dig and Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon, which is good to see. They also showed off a new trailer for Mina the Hollower. For that, I don't have any sort of date for that yet. Probably next year, I think.
Yeah, they haven't really released a release date for it. They've more or less said that they're gonna. I think what they said is they were gonna spend the next few months, fine tuning it. So more than likely, the earliest we'll be getting it is probably late this year, probably around December.
Yeah, when it was first announced, they said it would come at the end of the year last year, which obviously didn't happen. But I'm happy to get any update for this one.
Yeah, and then they went into their new projects announcements here. The first one, Shovel Knight: Shovel of Hope DX. This is a definitive edition of their original Shovel Knight game.
Yep.
But kind of going all out with it, as it features 20 new playable characters. I think most of the bosses you can play as well as a number of the the friendly characters you meet throughout. You can play through the whole game with them and all that. Whether they break it or not. They have a rewind function. They have save states. They have online multiplayer, various cheats you can turn on, and more stuff to it. Yeah, no release window or platforms announced yet, but I assume probably on most everything whenever it's ready. But that looks really cool. Very cool to see that kind of release coming for this kind of game. Because it's a very good game, but also one that's very much for dedicated sort of action platformer players. So more ways to let people kind of play that and experience, in a variety of ways, whatever best suits them. They have a bunch of stuff there for people to check out, so that's cool. And then then they hinted at a new Shovel Knight game. I think also talking about how probably story-wise you can probably glean impressions of where that might go from the various other Shovel Knight games they've put out for that. But the way they showed the Yacht Club logo when announcing that, it very much seemed to hint that it's going to be a 3D platformer. As their logo, as you may guess, is a yacht that's kind of facing towards the player. And when was part of that announcement, it was kind of a 3D model kind of moving a little bit left to right. So I assume that was a hint that they might be doing like a Shovel Knight 64 or just some sort of 3D platformer of sorts. But yeah, excited to see whatever that is whenever they're ready to show it off.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, if they actually want to do a 3D platformer, they haven't really done anything to, not have any trust. They've done amazing work with 2D stuff, and 3D is, like it's coming back in sort of a way, like, with what we're seeing with Astrobot, and, say what you will about Yooka-Laylee, but, it's, this is my favorite genre, so it's good to see it come back in this kind of way.
And I'm, like the idea of like a 3D Shovel Knight, like, it can sit, like I'm thinking of it and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking like the amount of progression that you got from like Super Mario Super Mario World to what we got with Super Mario 64. Suddenly Mario wasn't just, jumping anymore. I mean, he now was like able to like jump and backflip and forward flip, and he could punch and kick and all these new things that became, essential to the overall experience. And I'm thinking like, going from 2D to 3D, there are so many ways they could take Shovel Knight. It's kind of mind-boggling what they could achieve.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider the fact that like the original Shovel Knight is already a fairly difficult game. They could make the games even more difficult by putting them into 3D.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of potential there. And the way they framed this very much shows where they're thinking on this stuff. Let's see. We are committed to crafting an experience that not only honors the Shovel Knight legacy, but also pioneers groundbreaking, innovative gameplay mechanics. This isn't just another sequel, it's a bold new adventure that will launch Shovel Knight into an entirely new dimension of gaming, as that also hints at a 3D platformer. So
also Mane of the Hollower. I really, really want that game. I need it. I need it right now. I don't even care if it's not completely finished. I want to play it.
Yeah, that'll be fun to see whenever that's ready. So yeah, that's your Yacht Club Games update. They're working on a bunch of stuff, so that's cool. But let's get to some bad news, as is tradition. Can't get through a Summer Game Fest without people laying off people or shutting them down. But we got both here. Sumo Group, owner of Sumo Digital, as well as maybe some other studios, but I believe here they have announced they are laying off up to 15% of staff across Canada, the United Kingdom, Poland, Czech Republic, and India. in an effort to reshape their operations and reduce costs. So that's sad to see. Yeah, they're very much a studio reliant on getting contracts for new projects, and I'm not sure what the most recent one Sumo Digital has had, but they did, the Sackboy game, a bunch of others. Let's see. Yeah, they got a Critter Cafe that they are, or one of their studios is working on. They got announced last week. Yeah, so there's some stuff bumping around, but not for a bit here. But yeah, unfortunately, they are sort of in the same vein of everybody else, where money's drying up, and unfortunately, it affects them trying to keep their business going. They have to lay off people, unfortunately. So hopefully, those people land on a solid ground and have good luck trying to get new jobs.
Yeah, it's always tough news. I'm in the same boat, still looking for an opportunity. But know, if you're one of those people, you definitely should be on LinkedIn. Follow people like Amir Satbat, who's working his hardest to, find these people jobs based on the resources he has. As I was leaving Summer Game Fest play days on my last day, I actually caught Jeff. Was able to take a selfie with him, and I was able to thank him for just addressing the layoff situation at the very beginning of the presentation. And then. He's somebody that the organization that I'm talking about with Amir Sadbot is working with for things like mentorship and just people to talk to. And I know like a lot of people are obviously affected by this, either because they're in it or because they know someone or just because they care about it in this way. And the main thing is to just like keep complaining about it. And a lot of people have complained to Jeff about it, saying he hasn't been doing anything. But at the same time, like you have to realize that, there's a lot of marketing dollars going into what he's doing, and at the same time, it's like there was the leak last week about like what some of these things cost to even have their trailer up on things like the Game Awards and Summer Game Fest. But when you consider the fact that these presentations get all the eyes from everywhere on the internet, like even more so than a lot of huge sporting events, then like game development is expensive, and unfortunately, like this is what has to happen. But I'm hopeful that we can somehow turn a corner. But it doesn't seem like we're seeing any sort of slowdown.
And to further go with that, we found out that the developers of Wizard with a Gun, Galvanic Games, is shutting down, as their founder and studio president announced here. It is with a heavy heart that I announced the closure of Galvanic Games. Despite the promising start of Wizard with a Gun, sales are not strong enough to sustain our studio. Last year has been particularly tough for games. We had numerous encouraging conversations at DICE and GDC. The process of signing new projects, even in a good year, takes longer than the runway we had left. And that's a game I played a good bit of, and it's a very good game. Unfortunately, it seems like it just did not do super well. There's always a ton of games coming out, so
exactly. I remember being so excited for that game, and when it came out, I didn't realize it just because it was crowded, and that's what happens sometimes.
So unfortunately, they are shutting down, but the game will still be going on. I assume nobody's going to be updating it. I don't know if they're doing like a final update or something, but that's a shame for a lot of studios like this. Your basically your existence is based on getting new games signed, and if there's nobody interested in them for whatever reason, then it just leaves you in a place where it's either feast or famine. When your game isn't doing super well, you can find ways of keeping yourselves afloat, but at a certain point you have to basically make the tough decisions like this. So very sad news, but hopefully those people can find a new studio to get on and maybe find a better success there. So there you go for that. But that is gonna do it for the big news of the week. We do have highlights here from the other showcases that we miss. The future of Play Direct. I'm not really going to talk too much about any one of these games. There's a bunch of stuff here, and a lot of it's just like a lot of these trailers are just, hey, we exist, wishlist us on Steam, and check out our demo because it was around when Steam Next Fest is going to be starting. So there's that, but there's a couple things here. There's like Abyss Cross Zero, which is I guess they call it a 3D Metroidvania, but it's got a very Mega Man Legend kind of look to it. That looks really neat. That trailer looks pretty cool. So that one's just PC at the moment, but they may be coming to consoles at some point.
Yeah.
There's also a game called All Systems Dance.
Yeah.
Which is a neat looking game. It's like an action adventure game, but your character is always dancing to do combat. So that's pretty neat. Yeah, then there's Slay the Princess, the Pristine Cut. I guess this came out on Steam last year. It's a visual novel, but they're doing a definitive edition with more content to it and add more art and all that to it. So, yeah, 3 new chapters. Never before seen princesses. Expansions of familiar roots. Entirely new ending. All that kind of stuff. 1,200 new frames. 2,500 new lines. So yeah. And they're doing a physical version and bringing it to all the consoles. So that'll be one you can check out. I want to say that's this fall. So there's one you can check out. I'm trying to see if there's anything else here that stuck out to me. Not really. But yeah, then there was the Wholesome Direct, which had some nice stuff. Yeah, there's a cool game called Discounty that is like a store management game. Where you're kind of starting a very small business, and then you get potentially bigger and bigger, and then become a corporate retail store, hiring people to work for you, managing them, and all that shit. And it had very much the undercurrent of, man, capitalism sucks, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So there's that to it. So that's out next year. That's also coming to the consoles and all that. So there's that. There is, let me see, Squeak Ross Home, a Squeak Home. This is one that I liked. The look of is a Picross game, but the puzzles you're solving are items that turn into furniture to decorate your rodent home. So you get a little bit of home decoration stuff to it. So that looks neat. That's out next year at some point for Switch and PC. Yeah, let's see here. There's what was also on here that looked pretty good. There's Crab God that looked pretty neat, where you're a crab god, I guess, managing these little crabs that are going to help take care of the sort of seafloor environment, all that kind of stuff. A little bit of crafting and some combat and all that. So there's that. There's one here called Sopa, Tale of the Stolen Potato. It's coming to Xbox and PC as well as Game Pass. It's like a big narrative adventure game. When Miho steps into the pantry to get a potato for his grandmother's soup, he's pulled into a distant, fantastical land where he must retrace the steps of a mysterious great traveler before him. So you get some fun stuff there. I'm trying to see what else here that stuck out. There's a star named Eos. It's a neat looking game. It's kind of a puzzle adventure game. Coming to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Switch, and PC on July 23rd. So that's one's not too far away. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff here with I think this one link to summary for that. It's the Latin American Games Showcase. I linked to the showcase itself because they had dozens of games worth looking at. There's one pretty neat one that looks nice called Naughty Geese. Side-scrolling action platformer. It looks like taking some cues from like Mario World and Yoshi's Island. Particularly Yoshi's Island, because you're gathering a bunch of goslings that you're taking with you, and you're able to use them to solve puzzles and grab stuff and that kind of stuff. So got a little bit of that to it. That looks pretty neat. Let's see. But yeah, there's some nice stuff there. Women-led Game Showcase had some more stuff. Yeah, like just across these like 4 showcases or a handful of games that showed up in multiple of those.
Yeah, I'm noticing that actually. Like I'm
So
seeing
there's
I'm seeing like Abyss X Zero in like 3 of these.
yeah, probably just trying to cover their bases on some of this stuff.
Yeah.
For people that check out different ones, but there's some nice games here worth checking out. So I got some summaries and such there for you. If you want to check them out, let's see. Then we got the Ubisoft Forward, which had not really that much going on in it.
Yeah, mostly stuff we kind of already knew was coming out.
Yeah, they announced a Monopoly game.
Yeah.
If you want that, because they got the Monopoly license still.
Yeah. I'll probably definitely see that on Game Grumps at some point, I guess.
Yeah. Then we got to see some big gameplay of Star Wars Outlaws.
Actually,
which looks
didn't look
like
half bad.
Yeah, looks like what you'd expect.
Yeah.
That's at August 30th, so that looks pretty solid. Then we got our first look at the first DLC for Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Mask of Darkness. It'll be out in September. They're also going to have they had a free update that added Divine Trials to the game. Last Monday, so there's that. Then they reminded everybody that the Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake still isn't out, and said and put a big fat 2026 at the end of that trailer, that teaser, and I was like, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to put that year on it. The first major game I've seen a 2026 on. So yeah, that's the whole thing. It's still not coming out yet for another 2 years. So that's the whole thing. Let's see. Then they talk about more DLC for Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. If you're still interested in that, that's out July 16th. Yeah. Then, as I mentioned, Anno 117 Pax Romana has was announced for PS5, Xbox, and PC. And then we got some gameplay for Assassin's Creed Shadows, kind of showing a bit of both Yasuke and Naoe's gameplay. Both of which look pretty good. They're kind of keeping them playing differently.
Yeah, their playing styles are like extremely like Yasuke's is a lot more aggressive and a lot more direct. Naoe's on the other hand is classic Assassin's Creed. Trying to remain stealthy, trying to take people out and then hide the body.
Yeah, or just knock out the lights. They have a big lighting thing here.
Yeah.
As well as being able to like stab people through the walls.
Through the paper, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of that. Yeah. I don't think in her bit they ever hit any bodies. I think she just killed people and then just moved on.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure that's something you're gonna have to do because that's like all of the Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely looks fun. Like, it's definitely I am glad that they decided to get rid of like the yearly thing for these games, and they took a while to make this one because the quality definitely shows.
Yeah.
But it's still Ubisoft, so we know there's going to be some bullshit tacked onto it.
Yeah, they seem to be de-emphasizing the RPG elements to a degree, but
yeah,
I don't know how much of that. I believe they're not showing like damage numbers anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe toning down the loot drop stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't really know too much more about that. Though I'm sure they'll let us know over the next few months.
Yeah.
More about it, but yeah, that looks neat. That's I think still November 15th. So
yeah,
they've got 2 games on both sides of the fall release schedule with Star Wars Outlaws right there at the end of August and Assassin's Creed Shadows right in the middle of November. But not much else here for future stuff. Now it's just Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake.
Yep.
That's all we know about after that. So yeah, that's going to be the Summer Game Fest coverage. We'll probably
Yep.
still talk more about other things, demos and all that kind of stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, unless you guys have anything to add on that stuff.
Not really.
I mean, like I just wanted to add my thoughts on Ubisoft real quick. I actually watched the presentation this morning because I didn't have time before. But like, yeah, I know that it's kind of useless to talk about the Sands of Time remake release date or year, but at least we have one and know that it exists, even though we already knew that. But it's good to know that it's fully confirmed. And Frontiers of Pandora came out at a time last year that where nobody was looking to get a new game, and by all thoughts and accounts, like people are enjoying it. Like you wouldn't be making a DLC if people weren't buying the game. So there's that. So there seems to be some success there, and like a lot of the controversies that surrounded Izgimo and Ubisoft aren't talked about all that much anymore. So props to that team for turning the ship around. And then we always talk about Skull and Bones as sort of a joke and a meme, but it's out doing stuff, and like all these things matter. And just looking at the wide spectrum of things, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is a Game of the Year contender. We have two games in Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Shadows that are among this year's most hotly anticipated. And yeah, like I would say, like Ubisoft is definitely like doing what they can to become relevant in the best way again, and this year is a great example of that. Now,
and I hope that that's what they do, but they have to be aware they need to rein in the excesses, because that is specifically what has hurt their reputation.
Yeah, and then that's part of like what makes this Ubisoft Forward so hard to judge, because like they didn't, along with what you said, they didn't really announce anything new, and normally that's what we expect out of an E3 presentation. But when it comes to the hitters, they brought them. So as far as like the actual like development of one part, like they've gotten that part right, and I can't fault for that. So yeah, like I would say like it was a good C plus, stuff like that. And I actually just bought Prince of Persia the other day, and I'm looking forward to it arriving. See there, but yeah, I am pleasantly pleased with what they've done so far, and with the way Star Wars is looking, I am really excited.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that'll do it for the show this week. Thank you to Brandon and Danner for joining this week.
Always.
We'll be back next week with a new slate of news and things to talk about. As I believe the Elden Ring DLC is finally out and playable by the people that get to a certain point in the game.
Yeah,
it's a big thing that I think hasn't been publicized much, at least by Namco Bandai's end.
Yeah.
But you have to beat certain bosses before you can actually do anything in that DLC.
Yeah, there's a specific late stage boss that you do have to fight before you can do it. Now I've already beaten them, fortunately, but yeah, it's like it's in a part of the game that you have to like. There's certain things that you have to. There's like certain things you have to accomplish. You have to have successfully beaten Radon so that one star will fall and basically open up this crater that lets you go into the city underneath. So yeah, it takes a little time.
Yeah, I've seen people be like, "I just started New Game Plus. I'm screwed." So now they have to replay all the way up to that point again, I guess.
Yep.
I feel like that being a New Game Plus should just make sure that's automatically available, but whatever. But yeah, there you go. If you enjoy the show, if you let friends and family know, they should check it out. And select strangers that are also trying to figure out how to get to the Elden Ring DLC.
Yeah, it requires a little work, I will not lie.
Which is a tradition.
Yep.
None of their games are like super easy to get to the DLC. You have to find places like Dark Souls. You have to find a specific painting to like jump into to get to the new area.
Yep.
So that's a tradition for them. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Hope you have a good week ahead. We will see you all next time. Have a good one.